Welcome to the Michigan Man Podcast on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew, for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Playing in the first round near home would have been nice, but a lot of us think we ended up with a good draw in the Western region. Our guest today thinks Michigan has a good chance to make a Final Four run. Brendan Quinn from the Athletic Detroit will join us in just a moment on this week's Game Day segment. First, a few news and notes to get us started. It's been a great winter for us on the Michigan sports scene, and it only gets better this week. The men will begin NCAA tournament play on Thursday evening in Wichita against Big Sky champs Montana. The women did just enough to get into the ladies' big dance and will play in the Waco Regional on Friday against Northern Colorado. Hockey fell to Ohio State on Saturday in the Big Ten semifinals in overtime down in Columbus, so they'll rest this week and find out where they'll go in the NCAA tournament on the weekend. Wrestling will be well represented this weekend at the NCAA Championships down in Cleveland. It will seem like a redo of the Big Ten Championships. So many entries from the conference battling for individual and, of course, team championships. This is what makes March such a great month if you're a Michigan sports fan or a sports fan in general, especially college basketball. There is so much to watch. Front and center, though, will be Coach Beilein and his team. We have the late tip on Thursday in Wichita against Big Sky champion Montana, as I mentioned, at 9:50 p.m. The Grizzlies are a tough defensive team. They like to get their hands on you and play very physically. But Michigan's defense isn't too shabby either, as we've seen. My guest today says this is the best Michigan defense he's seen from a John Beilein team in all the years he's been covering the program. And he likes their chances of a good run in the tournament. Brendan Quinn from the Athletic Detroit joins me next on our Game Day segment here on the Michigan Man on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V-Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Back with us on our Game Day segment as we talk NCAA tournament, Brendan Quinn from the Athletic Detroit. Great to have you with us, Brendan.
Mike, always my pleasure, man.
Well, a lot of fans, Michigan fans, were hoping we'd stay home and start it off in Detroit, but it's Wichita on Thursday, and overall, pretty decent draw for us, Brendan.
Yeah, I think the bracket is pretty favorable for Michigan to make a real run at this thing. Obviously, the Final Four is the goal. And when you look at what some other teams are facing, I think Michigan's setup is pretty decent. All things considered. I know that the big focus is put on the fact that Michigan missed out on a possible couple home games in Detroit, but the flip side of that is Michigan State is going to Detroit, but Michigan State also might be facing Duke in the Sweet 16. And if I had to pick between those two options, I'll take Wichita.
Amen to that. Well, the first round games are always interesting and dangerous. We've seen that often through the years. What do you know about this Montana team we're going to see on Thursday, Brendan?
Their play starts in the backcourt. First of all, just traditionally speaking, Montana is a historical power in the out west in the Big Sky. Had a number of very, very good coaches come through there. Judd Heathcote got his start at Montana.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place that has, won and is used to winning. Mike Montgomery coached there. Stu Merrill coached there. Wayne Tinkle, the guy who's at Utah now. I always butcher his last name, but Larry Kostowiak.
Mm-hmm.
He's the best player in program history. He coached them to 2 NCAA tournaments. So this isn't a place that this is a huge moment. The big bright lights that they're not used to. Montana's been there. So in terms of this team itself, though, starts in the backcourt. Two guards. I spoke to an opposing Big Sky head coach last night after the selection show to kind of get a feel for what Montana does, and he described their two guards as pit bulls. One's 6'1", one is 6'2". These are guys who like to kind of get up in you a little bit, really disrupt you. Ahmed Rory is a transfer from Oregon, and Michael Oguine, I believe is how you pronounce it, Oguine. But he's a 6'2" guard. These are guys who aren't great shooters, but they're fearless, and they can score and go get buckets, and they attack you. So everything kind of starts there, and they have another decent piece in Jamar Akoh, Akoh, who is a kind of probably a borderline high major player. The coach I spoke to described him as maybe a rotational type guy who could get minutes in a high major league. So they're good. They play pressure defense. It's kind of like a mid-major version of Illinois. Should be an interesting matchup, but they don't shoot well. From what my understanding is, I think they will be facing a pretty significant mismatch in terms of defending Michigan's stretch bigs and the high ball screen stuff that Michigan does. They just don't have mobile bigs to really kind of operate on that perimeter defense when Michigan really spreads you out. So I think Michigan's a double-digit favorite for a reason, right?
Well, I think so too. And, it's dangerous to look ahead, but let's just do that for a moment. Getting by this first-round game, Montana, if Michigan does. Saturday, you get the winner of Houston, San Diego State. Two decent teams, but on paper, Houston looks like the much tougher team for Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, everyone seems very high on Houston, and I'm hearing how tough and gritty Houston is and that they can get up and down and they can score. I personally have not sat down and watched a Houston game this year. And frankly, it sounds like a lot of people are suddenly experts on Houston, who I don't know how many people watched Houston basketball this year, but apparently it's a lot more than I thought. So a lot of people are high on Houston. I'm sure it's very, very good squad, but if we're talking about a 36-hour turnaround, I think I like John Beilein on that prep over Kelvin Sampson. And, the fact is that the American, yes, Wichita's good, Cincinnati's good. I don't know how much was really there in that league in terms of just how good Houston is. That their record is very strong, obviously, but I kind of need to see it. I think that's one of those games in the first 10 minutes, you'll know in the first 10 minutes of that game if Houston is the real deal.
Well, let's say you get through the first weekend by whoever it is, and it gets more interesting. We know that. It's out to L.A., the winner of the Charlotte Pod, which features North Carolina, Texas A&M, Providence, very dangerous team, and Lipscomb. So we could see a North Carolina rematch. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Providence, though. They are really, really a good team, Brendan.
Yeah, I mean, Providence beat Xavier twice, and Providence beat Villanova. That's a dangerous team that will not be intimidated by North Carolina. North Carolina has a lot more length, probably more talent, certainly more pros, but Providence has a very legit senior point guard in Cartwright, who's not going to be afraid to go against Joel Berry. Ed Cooley gets those guys to really play over their heads in some bigger games. So, yeah, I mean, I think if I had to take a flyer on a second-round upset, I do like Providence to maybe pull it off against North Carolina. Obviously, that would be the best-case scenario for Michigan. But, I just think when I've seen North Carolina this year, I see it. I see the team that should be a national title contender, and then other times I just kind of shake my head and I get a little bit confused by them. But they have a lot of pieces. They have pieces that weren't really even in place when Michigan played them earlier this year. But, if Michigan does get North Carolina, I certainly would expect it to be a very different game than their first meeting.
Well, if Michigan does get North Carolina and gets by them, you get to the West Finals where it could be against Gonzaga or, I don't know, Ohio State if they get out of the first round, who knows. But that Gonzaga matchup, that is a team, I don't know if people are sleeping on them, but they have so much talent and depth. yeah, they had to reload from last year. They are dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, the potential Elite Eight matchup, whether it is Gonzaga or Xavier, gives me pause for sure. I do not like Ohio State. I don't know if Ohio State gets out of the first round. I think they are a team that could get upset. Guards win in March, and their guard play just. I've said it all year. I mean, they've won a lot of games and a very impressive turnaround, but they were kind of a team that I just had circled basically since February, where I said, whoever they get in the first round, they're going to see some mid-major team, and I'm probably just going to go ahead and take a flyer on that team. And lo and behold, they fall into a 5-12 game with South Dakota State, a team who's been there before. And I think they might be ripe for an upset there. But you're right. I mean, an Elite Eight game, if it is Gonzaga or Xavier, that'll be quite a matchup on a turnaround for Michigan. And actually both teams, if Gonzaga has to get through Xavier has to get through Gonzaga, and Michigan has to get through North Carolina or vice versa, those are going to be teams who played some real games. So, I mean, I'm not ready to put Michigan in the Final Four, but I think that would be a great basketball game. And I would certainly love to see Michigan-Gonzaga in the Elite Eight.
Two-part question for you, Brendan. What makes you think Michigan can make a Final Four run, and what makes you think, no way, it's not going to happen?
The fact that they can win without having to shoot, 45% and make 12 threes, these things that kind of in the past have always been attached to this team. I do like that they can win ugly, and I like that they can win on an off night. So that's really hard to do in the tournament. But I do think Michigan, if it has a 4 or 5 game run in it, I think it can have that one stinker that it pulls out. That very well, maybe that's in the first game. That's really good, and I like that they are reliant on seniors who want to take big shots and can make big shots. Duncan Robinson and Muhammad Ali, Abdur Rahman are just guys right now who are in the moment, and they seem to be kind of thriving in getting these opportunities. And Mo Wagner's a big stage guy, and can he play 4 or 5 games in a row at an exceedingly high level? I'm not sure about that, but I bet he has a game or two in him like he had against Louisville last year. When that comes, if that comes, remains to be seen. But these are the pieces that get them to the Final Four. In terms of what could hold them back, everyone is exceedingly high on Michigan, as they should be. But this team did almost lose to Iowa in its opening game in New York City. And if they lost that game, would people be talking like this right now? I don't know. I think they'd probably be a 4 seed. Maybe they could have even fallen to a 5 seed. But it would just have a lot different shine on it, wouldn't it? If they had dropped that game. Now, to their credit, they didn't. But this isn't an infallible team. That they did lose to Northwestern late in the year. They can sometimes just struggle to score the ball, and if that happens, obviously at any given time you can drop a game, but you could make the case that some guys have been playing over their heads a little bit, especially in New York. People are acting as if John Teskey is going to come out and do what he did against Isaac Haas in the NCAA tournament. Well, he very well might. Don't get me wrong. This is no offense, but okay, I'm not banking on that, and I don't think anyone else should bank on that. Xavier Simpson's one of the best stories in the country right now, and is playing a beautiful brand of basketball. But is he ready to go do that in the NCAA tournament? I have no idea. I mean, his pace and rhythm and his comfort level that he's playing in have been outstanding. But it's a different deal when you get to the NCAA tournament. And then, of course, there's foul shots. And is it going to finally bite him in the ass? I've seen it happen to other teams before. So I do think they have it figured out a little bit in terms of how to maneuver through those closing minutes. You saw it in the NCAA tournament where they basically went to a 3-man game on one side of the court and just put Xavier and Charles Matthews on the opposite side of the court, completely out of the play, and almost ran like a 3-man weave with the other guys on the court until someone fouled them. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. But, in late in games, that's where it's going to be a lot between the years. And right now, when it comes to free throws, I don't know what Michigan looks like between the years.
Yeah, big question mark, no doubt about that. Well, the Big Ten got 4 teams in, fewest in 10 years, Brendan. Any part of you surprised Nebraska or Penn State, or both were left out?
Yeah, I wasn't overly surprised just because it seemed like it was trending that way for a while. However, I was on with in studio with Sam Webb and former coach Charles Ramsey this morning on WTKA, and Sam made a point that I hadn't thought about, and I think it's a great point. And it's, if Michigan State is a 3 seed and given a spot in Detroit, and obviously the committee valued its resume and gave weight to the 29 wins that it won. If that's the case, and if Michigan State is a 3 seed with the non-conference schedule, or the non-conference wins, I should say, that it has, yeah, you can make the case that winning 13 games in the Big Ten should probably be enough to get you in. If all things are equal, and that's the value of the overall value of what a Big Ten schedule looks like, you can make the case. You can make the case for Nebraska and a Penn State, but that's revisionist history in terms of what could have and should have happened. But I mean, I did not think that Oklahoma should be anywhere near this tournament. I think that should, if anything, it should have been Oklahoma State in that spot. I think it's a shame that MTSU was left out. And I even look at a team like St. Bonaventure, who got stuck in a play-in game. And St. Bonaventure to be in a play-in game and Oklahoma to be safely in the field as a 10 seed just blows my mind.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, it all gets underway this week. My opinion, your opinion, the best time of the year, Brendan. The only thing we really can predict is the unpredictable will happen. So we'll see, starting with the play-in game right on through the weekend. It's going to be our favorite time of the year. Our guest today has been Brendan Quinn from the Athletic Detroit, who does such a great job covering Michigan and the Spartans. Enjoy the madness, Brendan, and I look forward to reading your coverage of the tournament and getting you back soon.
And I look forward to talking to you after the season.
Quick Hits is next as we wrap it up for another week here on The Michigan Man on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. On Quick Hits today, thanks again to Brendan Quinn for being with us. He's a busy guy this week, and as always, we appreciate him carving out some time from his busy schedule for us. In other news, Big Ten co-pitcher of the week was freshman left-hander Megan Bobian. She posted a 3-0 record over the Wolverines' perfect FAU Parents Weekend tournament appearance last weekend. She posted a 0.93 ERA with 25 strikeouts and a .122 opposing average over 15 total innings pitched. She tossed 5 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts against host FAU last Friday before claiming both wins on Saturday, boasting a career-best 16 strikeouts against Ball State and 3 perfect innings to win in relief against Pittsburgh. Michigan is 18-6 overall and will move closer to home this weekend when they play in the Miami Invitational down in Oxford, Ohio. After that, it's time for Big Ten play to get started. They are ranked number 22 heading into this weekend's action. Baseball will be at home this week, even though the weather won't be that great. On Tuesday today, they'll be playing against Oakland. Wednesday, it's Lawrence Tech. Then a 3-game weekend series with Bowling Green. They have a 4-10 record heading into this week's action. Don't forget our free show apps are available from the iTunes and Google Play stores. If you get the show from iTunes, please take a moment to rate or comment on the show. Thank you in advance. We will have this month's Michigan Man Extra for you next week. Steve Lorenz from 24/7 Sports will be with us for another recruiting update. The class of 2019 already has 5 verbals, and this weekend some big-time targets will be on campus for a visit. So as always, there is plenty to talk about in the recruiting world. I'll give you a heads up on Twitter and Facebook when the show goes live next week. And of course, we'll be back next week on our regular day, and hopefully we'll be talking about a trip to LA in the Sweet 16 for Coach B and his team. My scheduled guest is beat writer James Hawkins from the Detroit News, so come on back next week and listen to James. That will do it for another edition of The Michigan Man. Thank you for taking time to join me, and make sure you tell your friends and family about the show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Have a great Wolverine week, everyone. Until next time, take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for joining us today on The Michigan Man, here on Wolverine Sports Radio, a member of the V Sporto Network, and in partnership with SB Nation's Maize and Brew. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your calls at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Or email us at themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. That's themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan, and is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!